House of the Dragon is finally back for its second season. We have been waiting impatiently for almost 2 years, so let's talk about the season premiere, A Son for a Son. Hey everyone, I'm Mariana, this is Impression Blend, and naturally, a big spoiler warning for this episode and everything leading up to it. This is going to be a full breakdown. We will talk about what happened, what worked, what didn't work, and what details you should be paying attention to. The first of which, of course, is the new title sequence. Gone are the flowing bloodlines and Viserys' model of old Valyria. We now have an epic tapestry in progress.
Would you like to see the tapestry?
I don't think Viserys would approve of this change. Jokes aside though, this is a big improvement from season 1. It looks better, it fits the show better, and anyone invested in the lore is going to find a lot of fun details in there. The tapestry tells the Targaryen history, starting with the old Valyria and its doom, moving into Aegon's conquest, the kings that came after him. We even see Maegor the Cruel dead on his throne, all the way to the current events with Aegon II being crowned at King's Landing and Rhaenyra being crowned at Dragonstone, setting up the Greens and the Blacks as two factions ready for war and leading into the Iron Throne as the history continues to be written. I'm assuming they're going to keep changing it throughout the season, adding new details as events unfold, and I cannot wait to see what that looks like. But as is, it already looks beautiful. The actual episode opens with a forest and a raven, and as soon as the music starts playing, you know this is the North. Hearing the Winterfell theme play really took me back to the early seasons of Game of Thrones, very nostalgic and emotional. The season picks up right where we left off at the end of season 1. Jace was sent by Rhaenyra to assure the Blacks have the support of House Aaron in the Vale, which is an interaction we unfortunately didn't see, and House Stark in the North. We are introduced to young Lord Cregan Stark. We see Winterfell. We see a lottery to join the Night's Watch. We see the Wall and hear about the threat that lies beyond it. Lots of visual callbacks to the original series here as well, with the armor and even how these shots are set up. There's that very recognizable northern accent. We hear about duty and honor. We hear that winter is coming, and even Cregan Stark himself looks very much like a younger version of Ned. Now, this isn't just Easter eggs for the main series. I do expect Northerners to matter in the show, although that might depend a little bit on where they decide to end it. It is worth noting, though, that this encounter is a lot bigger in the book, Fire and Blood. And I do wish this was given more screen time, because in the book, Jace and Cregan become really good friends. They hunt together, they train together, they enter an agreement called the Pact of Ice and Fire. There's a future marriage involved, and there even are some forbidden love rumors as well between Jace and Cregan's half-sister, Sarah Snow. A lot goes on at Winterfell, and it would have been really nice to see, but the TV series does have other priorities, and they needed to focus on the fallout of Luke's death. So it makes sense why that sequence was shorter, and why pretty quickly a raven arrives from Dragonstone with the news of Jace's brother's death, so Jace has to head back. The fallout is very different between the Blacks and the Greens. The Blacks are mostly ready to act, just waiting for Rhaenyra's instructions, with Daemon being the most impatient and increasingly frustrated by all of the waiting around, while the Greens do seem pretty split on their course of action, with only Aemond and Criston Cole actually taking the impending war seriously and trying to make plans. We'll get back to them later. Let's catch up with Team Black first. At Dragonstone, Rhaenyra has been missing for days, looking for the remains of her son. Meanwhile, Rhaenys returns from patrolling the blockade at the Gullet gullet on her dragon melees. The Valerians now control that area, successfully cutting off all sea travel and trade for King's Landing, which is a big problem for the Greens and the people of King's Landing. Daemon tries to pursue Rhaenys to fly with him and have their revenge on Aemond and Vhagar. A son for a son, he says, but she refuses to mount any kind of attack without Rhaenyra's orders, and Daemon isn't exactly looking to go rogue behind Rhaenyra's back on his own. However, while he tries to be understanding of Rhaenyra's actions and respectful of the wishes of his wife and queen, he definitely is growing frustrated because of the inaction. He knows all of their lives are at stake in this war, including their children. You have to remember, he already thinks the Greens murdered his brother, Viserys, and as much as he's trying to restrain himself, he also sees this as wasting precious time. He could be rallying support, capturing strategic locations, doing something, and sitting idle isn't really his style. He's a conqueror at heart. He is an experienced fighter and cunning by nature, so do keep an eye on this growing tension. We also check in with Corlys Velaryon for a quick scene where we meet Alan of Hull. Through dialogue, we learn that ships are needed to fortify the blockade, and the gullet is in constant need of defense. Another thing to keep an eye on, as the gullet and the blockade keep coming up throughout this episode. The interaction between Corlys and Alan is brief but slightly awkward for reasons that the show has not revealed yet, and we also learn that he has a brother, Adam, and all I can say for now is that these characters are worth paying attention to, as they will play a role in what comes next. I can't say that this was the strongest introduction, it's not the best scene of the episode, and it did feel a bit disconnected from the main story, but this is a necessary one, and all of the setup will pay off eventually. Rhaenyra finally returns after finding the wing of Arrax and Luke's cloak caught in a fishing net. It's a very heartbreaking moment, and we see her dragon grieve with her, but now that she's back, she is ready for vengeance and says her only line of the entire episode: "I want Aemond Targaryen." A chilling moment, to say the least, and also a line that sets a tragic chain of events in motion. This finally gives Daemon something to do, and he turns to his old ally, Mysaria, who was captured earlier by the Velaryon fleet. Their relationship is not what it used to be, especially since she worked with the Hightowers and had a hand in helping them put Aegon II on the Iron Throne, but she gives Daemon some names and information so he can pursue his revenge plan in exchange for her freedom. Also, I just want to say I am so glad they toned down Mysaria's accent this season. Whatever she was doing in season 1 was way over the top and kept taking me out of every scene she was in. She actually sounds a lot more natural now, and I am definitely looking forward to seeing where they take her character, how much she is involved in the rest of the show, and I am sure this is not the last time we're seeing the White Worm. Rhaenyra grieves with her family. There's a very emotional and beautiful scene when Jace returns and tries to report his political achievements at Winterfell and the Eyrie as he's holding back tears until she hugs him. And the funeral for Luke hits hard as well, which is intercut with Alicent lighting candles for the dead, including Lucerys Velaryon. By the way, if you're wondering who Allery Florent was, which is the first name she says, it's Alicent's mother. But hooded Daemon is off to King's Landing. And we know from season 1 that when Daemon wears a hood, it's not a good sign. He's definitely up to no good. He hires 2 assassins to get into the Red Keep through Maegor's secret tunnels and take out Aemond. One of them asks what are they to do if they can't find him, but we don't get to see Daemon's reply. That part is left to our interpretation. The show really wants Daemon to be as ambiguous and morally gray as possible because this isn't the first time they left us without an answer to did he or didn't he. While it may seem frustrating for viewers who are looking for definite answers, I think keeping some mystery with Daemon's character is actually very fitting, and I personally like this decision. It keeps you guessing and it keeps you constantly analyzing his words and his actions because you never know what his true intentions are. In this case, my interpretation is that his instructions were vague. A son for a son. Don't come back without the prince's head. We also hear one of the assassins say this.
Did you not hear the prince? No head, no gold.
This is the setup for the Blood and Cheese event, which is the chilling finale of the episode. But before we get into that, we need to talk about the Greens and what have they been up to this entire time. I will say right off the bat, I wish we got to see what happened when Aemond returned after the Storm's End disaster with Luke. We gather from other dialogue that he decided to own what happened. He isn't feeling remorseful for his actions. Even Otto calls it the caprice of youth. Ridiculous. And the result is that the war is now completely unavoidable, though some of the Greens seem to have a strange illusion of safety. As always, only Helena knows what's coming. I'm afraid, she says. Not the dragons, the rats. Sadly, people continue to ignore her, writing her words off as weird nonsense, but if you've been paying attention, you know she has been predicting what happens since season 1. She isn't like this in the book, but in the series, she's shown as a dragon dreamer, someone who has visions of the future, which is a very interesting addition to the story, and it's definitely worth listening to what she says. But Aegon continues to ignore her, sure that Team Black won't attack because Vhagar is guarding the city. Alicent is getting very friendly with Sir Criston Cole. Otto is trying to get his family under control, and Larys, he is doing what serves Larys. He replaced the castle staff with people he personally chose, and he's even starting to whisper into Aegon's ear, suggesting he should consider replacing Otto as the Hand of the King. Larys is definitely the closest thing this show has to Littlefinger from the original series, but somehow darker and more twisted. He's another person the Greens should keep a close eye on because he sure is keeping a close eye on them. We do also see what Aegon II is like as king. He doesn't seem to take things very seriously. He's out there enjoying time with his friends, bringing his kid to work. He also seems to be at least trying to help the people. The scene in the throne room shows a lot. He wants to give the guy his sheep back. He is confident the blockade will be broken. He promises good payment for the smiths. And it's not like he's the good guy now. I really doubt he's doing this from the goodness of his heart, but at the very least, he understands the importance of keeping his people happy and is somewhat trying. However, Otto is there at every step to tell him what he should do, and reluctantly, Aegon listens. For now. Otto has served as hand for a few kings now. He's effectively been running the kingdom, and he isn't about to give up control, even though it's starting to slip through his fingers. This is also the scene where we meet another character to pay attention to, Hugh Hammer. He is the blacksmith petitioning the king for payment as he and other smiths make weapons for the upcoming war. Like Alan of Hull, this is an important character from the book, and he is going to play a big role going forward unless there are some major changes made, which I doubt because then why introduce him at all? But the casting looks great, and definitely do not dismiss this guy as some random petitioner. So, as Otto tries to get on the same page with his family, including Alicent, who is starting to understand that violence is unavoidable, Aemond and Sir Criston are focused on strategizing. And it does surprise me how dismissive Alicent is of Aemond in this episode, when it's obvious he is more capable and qualified than Aegon to plan for this war. Not only because he rides the biggest dragon, but also because he has been taking his training and the importance of politics seriously since he was a child. Aemond is an interesting character. He is pretty much the Daemon of Team Green, and like Daemon, he is quickly losing his confidence in the authority of the rest of his family, questioning their ability to make necessary decisions, even calling his mother a fool at one point. Or maybe Alicent tries to be dismissive and keep him out of planning because she knows she cannot control him. In that case, also a bad strategy because, as we know and as Otto suspects, he is motivated and perfectly capable of making his own decisions. There is an undeniable division when it comes to the Greens, and their inability to respect each other and be on the same page is not a good place to be. The Blacks may have their issues and they may disagree amongst themselves, but compared to the Greens, they are still working together as a team. How will all of that turn out after now 2 tragic deaths? We will find out very soon, but if there was any hope for some sort of peace, it died with Luke and Jaehaerys. So finally, let's talk about Blood and Cheese. The 2 assassins sneak into the castle posing as rat catchers looking to kill Aemond. This is a big event from the book and definitely the main event of the episode. As they move around the castle, they go through the throne room where we can hear Aegon, the dragoncock, the untamable beast, talk dismissively about his family just as much as Aemond does. We also see a lot of the Kingsguard in that throne room with the king. The 2 continue looking, and while they can't find Aemond, they stumble upon Queen Helena's chambers, making the decision to kill her son instead. The scene is definitely horrific. They make her point out which of the sleeping children is the boy and then immediately proceed to take his head off as shocked Helena grabs her sleeping daughter and runs to Alicent's chambers. They killed the boy, she says, as Alicent begins to understand this is actually real. Why was nobody guarding the queen, you might ask? Well, let's just say Alicent had Criston Cole otherwise occupied. Will they now be consumed by guilt? Could this lead to some rash decisions? Or will they just blame Rhaenyra and carry on as before because clearly we can't do this again isn't something they take seriously? I will say this scene is where I have an issue with this episode because the way they adapted it made it lose a lot of its impact. In the book, even after the unnecessary death of Lucerys, Blood and Cheese feels so much worse, so much more disturbing and vicious. In Fire and Blood, all of this goes down in Alicent's chambers, where Helena has brought her 3 children before bed. Yes, there is a 3rd child, Maelor, her youngest son, who seems to be completely missing in the show. Alicent's maid is killed, the queen's guardsman is killed, Alicent is bound and gagged, and Helena is made to choose which of her sons should be killed. Pick, he said, or we kill them all. On her knees, weeping, Helena named her youngest, Maelor. Perhaps she thought the boy was too young to understand, or perhaps it was because the older boy, Jaehaerys, was King Aegon's firstborn son and heir, next in line to the Iron Throne. You hear that, little boy? Cheese whispered to Maelor. Your mama wants you dead. Then he gave Blood a grin, and the hulking swordsman slew Prince Jaehaerys, striking off the boy's head with a single blow. The queen began to scream. I mean, wow. Horrifying on many levels. Reading that entire scene in the book is almost as impactful psychologically as the Red Wedding, and it really makes you consider switching sides if you're rooting for Team Black. Obviously, the result for the story is still the same. Just like with Luke, the intention doesn't matter at this point. What matters is the outcome, and it's not that I'm a crazy person rooting for brutality on screen, but lessening the a dramatic impact is a strange choice in a fictional universe known for its brutal drama. What's even weirder to me is how the showrunner, Ryan Condal, defended his decision. We didn't want to make too much of a here comes this twisty thing from the books and make it feel like a gimmicky thing. That was definitely us trying to protect this moment. Everybody knows it's coming. People are waiting for you to play the hits. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of misdirection so that it is revealed in a satisfying way. I'm sorry, what? This sounds like changes for the sake of changes. The people who haven't read the books don't know it's coming, so this really doesn't apply to them. And I am yet to hear from another book reader who would consider this to be a satisfying reveal. The other issue I have with this is it once again feels like taking agency away from characters. This happened in season 1 with the Greens. Alicent wants Aegon on the throne because she misunderstood what dying Viserys was talking about. Lionel and Harwin Strong are dead because Larys thought that's what Alicent wanted, but she didn't actually ask for that. Aemond killed Luke because, oops, he lost control of his dragon. Now Jaehaerys is killed even though nobody technically asked for it. Instructions were unclear. Why make this war a string of accidents? Why not lean into these characters being ruthless, corrupted by their desire for power, driven by jealousy or vengeance? We already had a whole season of Alicent who only makes decisions because she's manipulated by other people. Are we now going to make Rhaenyra into a character blamed for things she technically didn't want? These poor women would have lived happily ever after if it wasn't for everyone plotting around them. Come on. I really hope that's not where we're going with this. Give me motivated characters, please. So where does this leave us going forward with the season? Obviously, happy Aegon drinking with his buddies is over. I fully expect him to turn bitter and cruel, while also probably making poor choices starting next episode. I'm also curious about Aemond. Will this be a wake-up call for the Greens to take his more aggressive plans more seriously? Will he be officially welcomed at the small council? And are Otto and Alicent going to completely lose control of the two brothers after everything that happened? Regardless, the time for action is here, and I'm sure we're going to see some immediate consequences. Also, judging by the trailer, I don't think Blood and Cheese is going to go over well at Dragonstone either. I imagine the tension between Rhaenyra and Daemon will keep growing because killing Helena's child is definitely not what she asked for. However, it is so important for Team Black to maintain unity, as the Greens will likely be out for revenge, so let's hope they're able to stick together and prepare for whatever comes next. Overall, this was a very strong opening to the season, and other than Blood and Cheese, I really don't have much to complain about. Yes, I would have loved to see Jace in the Eyrie and the longer Winterfell sequence, and Aemond returning home after Storm's End, but there's only so much they can fit into an hour-long episode. And credit where credit is due, everything they showed had a purpose. There was no filler in the season premiere, and even the smaller scenes were setting up conflicts, relationships, or introducing new important characters. So it was a pretty packed episode, and I cannot wait to see how the show deals with everything that comes out of this and what they decide to expand on. Surprisingly, I thought Aegon had the biggest character upgrade this time around. We got to see a different side of him, and he's a lot more interesting here than he is in the book. Alicent and Criston Cole confirming season 1 theories, and being in a relationship is a show-only thing. I like how they worked that into the story. I do think it fits the narrative. I know there are also rumors about Helena's children actually being Aemon's children, not Aegon's, which I am not particularly sold on, although I can understand why certain past interactions could be interpreted interpreted that way. But if that was true, Jaehaerys' murder would certainly send Aemon's motivations into the stratosphere and make him hate Daemon and Team Black even more. Speaking of Daemon, the Rogue Prince remains my favorite character on the show, and as of right now, I think he is the most well-written of them. But there is a lot more to come this season, and every character on the show has a lot more to offer. I cannot wait for us to see all of the battles, betrayals, politics, and of course, dragons. But what did you guys think of this season premiere? Let me know in the comments, and let me know what you're looking forward to seeing the most this season, or at least what you're hoping to see. And if you're looking for more of my videos about the world of Ice and Fire, you should check out this playlist next.